Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Tucson, Arizona, here for the Musselman Honda Circuit. This is Race Rotax's U.S. Trophy West Series presented by X-Scale Motorsports. This is rounds 4 here today. My name is Alexander Searle. Along with me in the booth is Emery Lida. Emery, it's just our warm-up sessions here on your screen right now. It's the Junior Max class getting ready to kick off our morning slate here. How are we feeling this morning?
Feeling great, Alex. Feeling ready to talk about another day of racing here in Tucson. I mean, it's been an interesting night to say the least. A lot of winds, a lot of storms. That's kind of thrown a wrench in everyone's plans, but certainly with everything being said, this should be an exciting day of racing. We saw yesterday a lot of good battles through the fields in both the heat races as well as in the main events. And this Junior Max category, to start us off with, is one of the most exciting categories to watch from yesterday. I mean, you had so much pace for Nick Eccleston. You had a lot of contending drivers over the course of the day, whether it be the likes of Xavier Malatesta, who you see on your screen right now, or someone or some other guys like Antoine Lemieux, who kind of picked it up over the course of the rest of the day. And I mean, again, yesterday was a lot of fun to watch these guys battle it on out. And I don't know. I'm excited to see how this all plays out today. I mean, Eccleston looked like he had a strong, firm grip on the field, but then in the final, everyone kind of came back together. So I think it's going to be a good race to watch here, Alex.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned that Junior Max final. It was chaotic to say the least, right? I mean, let's talk about Nick Eggleston. I mean, he had a great first heat, not a good second heat, right? Had to start mid pack in the final, but after that opening lap, he already found himself in P2, P1 the next lap, and didn't really look back. I mean, you mentioned how close the field was for a long time in that race. If you remember, Eggleston had about a 7 to 8 tenths gap the entirety of that race. And then when Lemieux and Olivier Mirac stopped fighting and started working together, they caught back up about a tenth a lap, but it was about a lap and a half too late. They finished second and third, respectively, there. Gage Corn as well couldn't really make anything happen during that race. He was consistently in the top two all day long, but in the feature race was stuck in fourth and pretty much plateaued from there. Kyle Drysdale had to start from the back of the grid in that feature race. He drove himself all the way up into that fifth position, so it was a good run for him. Xander Malatesta, as well as quick. This driver on your screen right now, finishing in P6 in that one. So again, a lot of storylines from this Junior Max class. I expect more racing action, more crazy racing action today here, especially for the likes of Eggleston racing for a championship. You know, Lemieux, after being very, very quick in Phoenix, was quick yesterday as well. Gage Corn in the mix as it stands in the points. So it's all to play for. But again, let's talk about points, right? It's an 8-round championship. 6 of them are what counts towards the points for a championship for a grand finals ticket. But you get 2 drops. They can't be on the same weekend. So if you're a guy like Nick Eggleston, who has a really good Saturday, you can afford to kind of, hedge your bets a little bit today on Sunday and maybe play a riskier race, right? And make moves. And if something happens, right? Oh, there's one of your drops. For me, to me, it's too early in the championship to start thinking in that mentality in terms of playing for a drop. But I can see why drivers do think that way. If you're a driver, maybe like a Killian Harris, for example, who was quick at Phoenix, had a 10th place finish yesterday. I mean, he might be looking to play a little bit smarter today, but you still need that aggression to ensure that you can get some points. So for me, that's why this point system is really, really enticing from a spectator, from a viewer's standpoint. And as a driver, I just like the idea that, for one, you can't just drop an entire weekend. So you need to actually play, your cards a little bit better throughout a championship series. But I think with the results we saw yesterday and what we saw from Phoenix, I think we're in for a great championship battle.
Yeah, absolutely. And don't forget, too, I mean, this is a championship that has kind of a unique situation where every race has a different layout. So here you can see they're running the reverse layout today compared to yesterday. This will kind of change how the setup works. And to top it all off, the last time they practiced this layout was on Friday. They had, I believe, 3 sessions to dial it in there. And when you're doing that layout kind of in the heat of the day, it's completely different than the conditions they're in this morning. And add in some extra rubber coming in from the normal layout, and conditions on track are going to be different. So everyone's kind of going into this a little bit blind. And so I think that having kind of that different challenge, so to speak, to work through here in Tucson is going to make it an exciting day number 2 that could throw up some changes. I mean, having said that, already Nick Eccleston's off to a really good start here in this warm up, but all things considered, I think this is going to be kind of a new challenge for the drivers. As there you can see them coming through what is now turns 1 and 2 in the chicane. And I think it races a good bit differently in this layout, Alex. I mean, you have kind of a faster turn 1 and 2 section. The deep braking zones have a little bit wider exit than they did yesterday. I think that's going to create for some more exciting racing when we get down to the heat races and eventually the main event.
Yeah, let's talk about the track layout as well, right? Because I think this is something that, Race Rotax does a really good job of in terms of changing the layout for these drivers, right? So they've had a chance to practice on this layout earlier on in the weekend, but after racing an entire day on the alternate layout, or the main layout, should I say, and now going to the alternate layout, you have to re-rack your brain. You have to forget all the braking zones that you remember beforehand because you're racing the track entirely backwards. So this slower section of the racetrack right here that was from yesterday, coming off of a sweeping left-hander, is now an even slower section of the racetrack that has a longer straightaway on the exit. This is what we saw in Phoenix as well. A very similar situation where now a long straightaway into a hairpin turns into a longer straightaway, essentially because of how much sooner you can get the power now. So I think the draft going this way is actually going to play even more of a factor because the slower corners that now we're starting to see that lead on to a straightaway is going to create, more importance for a draft.
Yeah, absolutely. It shortens the total amount of braking zones you're having. It speeds up the overall flow of the track, and I think it really makes it to where you're going to be able to have a lot of draft effect. And when it comes time for qualifying, you're going to see the effect of draft take full effect. I mean, for me, the turns 1 and 2 too is going to be interesting to watch because yesterday the outside lane on the starts really struggled to hold their ground, so to speak. They're typically losing 2 to 3 spots off the line. And today, with the fact that you have an S section that goes back to the right on the second corner, it kind of, I would say, almost offsets the disadvantage of the outside and maybe even creates a situation where they could get the lead from the outside pole heading into turn number 1. So it's going to be interesting to watch. I think that there's going to be a more even start sequence, and the actual racing themselves, like you mentioned, the draft is going to play a bigger part. You have longer straightaway times just because of the profile of the corners you're coming out of. And I'm excited to see how this all plays out today because this layout, again, very fast, very flowing, over 8/10 of a mile, probably one of the longest tracks that a lot of these guys have been on. And I think it's going to be good for some great racing. As you see now, a little bit of jockeying for position at the end of warm-up. And again, this has been a tight category all weekend. This session, no different. Nick Eccleston throws in a 51.950 in his last time around to go P1. Gage Korn only 17 100ths of a second off with a 51.877. Kyle Drysdale in third. Xander Malatesta in fourth. And Cadence Presley, who struggled a lot yesterday, cracks the top 5 here in warm-up so far, Alex. And I think that is the end of the session as they just completed their last lap and will now peel off into the pits.
Yeah, I mean, Cadence Presley, not the day he would have wanted yesterday. Looking good so far. Top 5 in warm up. Again, still a long day to go, but I'm sure after the day that he had yesterday to head into warm up today and only be about 3/10 off and a top 5 spot here, top 5, finish in the warm up session for Junior Max. It's something to look forward to for him. I think a couple of things to note, right? Olivier Marac, 7th. Antoine Lemieux, 10th. So those are 2 drivers that finished 2nd and 3rd in yesterday's Junior Max final, 7th and 10th as well. Killian Harris, a quick driver, in 12th. So I think maybe this new layout has, altered the field slightly. But again, it's just warm up. Who knows track conditions? Who knows, what setups they're attempting. Again, they haven't driven this track in a couple of days. So we'll find out the exact pace differential in that Junior Max class come qualifying time. But how about these kids, Emery? It's the 8 to 12-year-olds, just a micromax category. And on your screen in that red and black go-kart is Lucas Tarango. Yeah, he has been incredibly, incredibly dominant all weekend long so far. I mean, I think he won yesterday's feature race by about 14 seconds. So really impressive stuff for him. Yeah, just over 14 seconds. But the field between second to fifth was within 3 tenths. It was the comp carts of Underwood and Lipka going at it in the heat races, but Underwood with a second place finish in yesterday's final. Paxton Romero was quick all weekend on the 55 machine. Yutaka Sonoda almost got a podium there as Braxton Mayer's spins come out of the pits. Gives you an idea of the conditions of the racetrack and the temperatures as well outside here in Tucson, Arizona. So I think we're in for a treat. Who knows? Maybe this alternate layout is going to play into the hands of the drivers behind Tarango, who right now seemingly seems unstoppable.
Yeah, we'll see how Lucas Tarango does. We'll see how the rest of the drivers. I mean, it's not unprecedented for the change in layout to produce a different sort of outcome. We saw in rounds 1 and 2, Connor Lipka struggled. I wouldn't say mightily, but he struggled somewhat on the forward layout. On the reverse layout, though, he was able to come through and compete with Cam Becker and Lucas Tarango. And I think that's what you're going to need to see from the challenging field here, because I don't see Tarango suddenly going a lot slower over the course of this weekend. But it will be curious to see how he does in warm up and how he does in qualifying, because that will give a good indication of just how fast the number 7 machine is. And he's been dynamite all season long again. Yesterday was probably the most dominant display we've seen this entire championship in any class. So if he can keep that up, it'll be extremely hard to beat him. But again, this has been interesting to see him race up at the front all season long. He's been one of the single most exciting stories from this series to take place. So Lucas Tarango, again, the Glendale native, not too far away here in Tucson in the same state. I think that this has been a great kind of coming out party for him so far this season. I'm excited to see what he can do here over the course of the rest of the day.
Yeah, I mean, I know it's just the warm up lap, but it already looks pretty good for Tarango. Looks super smooth, already creating a gap between him and the likes of Tyson Underwood. But again, warm up, out lap, these drivers are getting used to and acclimated to this alternate layout, which they drove a couple of days ago. But again, still need to re-rack your brain. Going through the S section here, we mentioned it earlier in the broadcast. I mean, having a quick left-right chicane to open up a lap at the start of a race is going to be incredibly enticing for us to watch and for these drivers to strategically, plan things out. And again, you can't ever plan a start out because things can always and will usually go awry, and your plans will never happen. I think, Emery, you and I would both know a couple of things about starts not going our way probably, but again, a fast left-right chicane. I think, like you said, the inside lane is still where you want to be because to me, you can dictate kind of what happens to the outside lane. But if you are on the outside lane and you get a decent start, you can hang it around the outside, and now you have the inside for the right-hander. It also creates for good crossover opportunities into that hairpin as well. So I think now where you start is not nearly as important as it was yesterday when the opening corner is a super long decreasing radius corner, which basically leaves the outside, out to dry. Now there's benefits to both, and we won't really find out which is the more beneficial one until heat races begin in about an hour and a half time. So yeah, for me, I think this is going to be really, really fun to watch. I think now with the passing opportunities that we're going to see with how long the straights are and, the drafting opportunities, I think this layout, yesterday we saw great racing. I'm expecting the same or more today.
Yeah, absolutely. It should be fun to watch, especially in this microfield as well. I mean, yesterday we saw a really good battle for the podium. We mentioned it earlier between Paxton Romero, Tyson Underwood, Yutaka Sonoda, as well as Connor Lipka was in it as in Keaton Weigers after a bad qualifying was able to get himself into the podium battle. All of those guys are gonna have a shot at this one, but we were talking earlier on about what this different layout would do to Lucas Tarango, and I have to say, so far nothing seems to have changed. He is doing low 58s. Nobody else is better than a 59.2 at the moment. So, well, Paxton Romero just dropped in a 58.9, but still 0.8 of a second clear of his next closest competitor. That is insane to just go in after 3 laps on a new layout and instantly drop in almost a second on the competition, Alex.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't think it can get any better for him than yesterday. but so far, I mean, to put 8 tenths on second place, a second on third, like you mentioned, it's unreal to see what that number seven chat machine can do there with Lucas Tarango manning the wheel. So yeah, this is looking to be the dream sort of weekend for him. But again, don't want to jinx anything. Just warm up. We don't know what the other drivers are doing with the setup and where their mind is at as Tarango again resets his fastest time in the warm up session to now put over a second between him and Paxton Romero in second. But let's talk about the rest of the field. Romero now just puts himself 7 tenths away from Tarango, so now closer, inching towards Tarango's lap time there. So 7 tenths behind second place. Connor Lipka, a solid weekend for him. Didn't have the pace in the feature that we would have expected after having a poor start in that one. He sits third in the warm-up session right now. 2 tenths behind him, Yutaka Tsunoda. This has been a very good weekend for him. Very impressed with what the number 3 machine's been able to do. Tyson Underwood, Lipka's teammate there on board that comp cart, had a very solid showing yesterday, finishing second in the feature race. He sits fifth right now, just a couple of hundredth behind Tsunoda. Then as Keaton Weigers in sixth, had to start last in all those heat races yesterday, was able to come away with a top 5 finish when it mattered. Sebastian Johnson was in the mix of a lot of things yesterday, seemingly always getting the short end of the stick, in my opinion, from what we saw yesterday. Braxton Mayers on the Burrell as well, and then Mark Ayers rounds out your top 9 so far in the warm-up session. But Tarango resets purple lap, now 1.1 seconds clear of everybody else on the racetrack right now in the warm-up session.
Yeah, this is incredible to watch. But again, the battle beyond Tarango is going to be interesting to keep an eye on, especially when it comes to Paxton Romero and Connor Lipka. Yesterday, they were pretty evenly matched until the final. Today looks to be more of the same. Tyson Underwood and Yutaka Tsunoda also not too far away, as well as Keaton Weigers. And then even Sebastian Johnson within 9 tenths of a second of Paxton Romero. I mean, that's a decent chunk away, but it's still able to be overcome. But the big thing is just Lucas Tarango. Every single lap is doing a lap that is better than anyone else. He's better than himself, and he's upwards of a second clear of what anyone else has been able to do. And if you look at his lap times, all but the first lap at speed has been quicker than anything else anyone's done on any laps. So it's incredible to see this, but I think the storylines beyond Tarango over the course of this field are going to be very interesting to watch. I mean, Underwood had his best run of the season yesterday, kind of outdueled Paxton Romero in a sense in that final, and I think if he can keep that up, a second place could be very good for his championship standing going forward. So it'll be interesting to watch. You are watching now Yutaka Tsunoda on the screen now. He's in 6th position. Tsunoda, again, yesterday had a good run in the final, got all the way up to second at one point, kind of faded down the stretch, but was still in the fight for the podium, even if he didn't quite come up with that last podium spot, coming up just one spot short there. So Tsunoda had a good race yesterday. Seems like he's starting to get a little bit more comfortable on this track layout, and we'll see. I mean, hopefully the field can kind of concertina together as the drivers get more and more used to this layout again. One that they practiced on Friday, but still it's been a little while since they've had experience and exposure on this particular direction of the Musselman Honda circuit.
Yeah, and let's talk about this layout some more, right? Because from a driver's perspective, I mean, I've coming from Homestead mainly, right? I've driven a lot of layouts. Emery, you've driven a lot of layouts with your main track being Trackhouse Motorplex, and they have a lot of layouts to offer, a lot of great layouts to offer. As a driver, going into a weekend, knowing that you're going to have to drive multiple layouts in one weekend, I mean, what's your approach to each day, and how tough is it to, after an entire day of qualifying 3 races yesterday, you wake up in the morning and all of a sudden you're driving the backwards way?
Yeah, I mean, it's extremely tough, and it takes a mental adjustment as a driver. I mean, I was very lucky when I first started karting. I started out at the Carolina Motorsports Park at one point, and we had probably 8 to 10 different layouts they could use, and they would do double headers where one day was one layout, one day was the other layout. And it kind of got me used to it when I was in micro and mini, like these guys are that we just saw. And then recently, I mean, at Trackhouse, obviously they have different layouts. With Newcastle, we've seen them run different layouts. But for me, it's just kind of about kind of getting yourself in the right mindset. And you can't really ever lose the memory of what you did in previous sessions on that track. Like once you've practiced it, you have to understand that when you come back to it, it's just gotta like feel natural to you. And you gotta take a couple laps to kind of get your braking zone, your braking markers down. You have to understand how it races. You have to kind of do the mental prep work beforehand so that when you get on the track, it's all seamless and you don't have to overthink it at all. And I think that it's a great learning experience. I honestly think for the micro and the mini categories, this multi-track layout format is something that not only can they have good races from, but they can learn a lot when it comes to adapting as a driver and being better drivers from it going forward. So I really like this format that we've seen from the US Trophy West guys, RMC putting on a great show here. I think this has been one of my favorite parts of the series. And I think, and going forward, it's going to be interesting to see how that helps out the guys like a Lucas Tarango or like a Paxton Romero or Yutaka Sonoda that are just kind of getting their feet wet into high level competitive karting in the US and how it sort of influences them going forward. So this will be interesting to watch, but from the youngest of the stars to the oldest of the stars, we've got Senior Max and Masters Max out on the track right now. There's a look at Griffin Dowler, who yesterday, again, another consistent top five run. He's been in that top five pretty much the entire season, has not quite broken through for the race victory, and I think that he's going to be one to watch so far, or for the rest of the day here, Alex.
Yeah, this is the headline division here for Race Rotax's U.S. Trophy West, and I think we're in for a good one, right? Macy Williams yesterday, I don't want to say dominated, right, because she got the pole, won one of the heats, won the feature race. So if you just look at the results, you'd say she dominated. But if you watch the races, the likes of Cooper O'Clair, Griffin Dowler, even Lemieux got in the mix there. We saw Bradley Bitts was quick, as well as Bailey Murphy, right? He led a majority of that second heat race. So the results may say Macy Williams dominated. The races tell a different story. And so for Macy Williams, she knows that right now the target is on her back. They know she's quick. And they know, for one, she had a good, weekend in Phoenix. So again, this plays into the hands of she can afford to have a bad weekend potentially because it could be a drop now that she has a great Saturday. So the drivers, I expect, if I'm like a Cooper O'Clair, I could be more aggressive because I had a great first heat, a DNF, in the second heat, and then obviously in the feature race had an incredible performance to drive his way up to second place. And I will say those last 5 laps, he, I think, took off about 1.2 seconds on the lead to only finish 1.2 behind Macy Williams. So he is the driver to me that I'm looking out for the most, because I think if you look at an overall pace standpoint, he was the quickest one over the course of, a 12 to 18 lap race. Griffin Dowler was fast too. Spoke to him yesterday. Didn't make a lot of changes from yesterday to today, but he thinks, maybe some of the racing was a little aggressive, but nonetheless, we saw it yesterday with, Gio Santora roughing it up with a few guys, making it exciting for us to watch. Again, we mentioned it in the broadcast as we see, whoa, there's Gio Santora actually making some lunges there on Spencer Smith, as well as Boss Patel, I believe. So yeah, already having a good time there, sending them through, giving us a brief overview of what we can expect with these passing opportunities now that these two hairpins that were quick entries are even quicker entries now. So you can see some guys make real late lunges and expect more of that in the heat races. But let's talk about Gio Santora, right? We saw, especially in that second heat race, made some dive bombs, maybe used the bumper a few times, but again, all clean. In my opinion, we spoke about it, and the officials agreed, right? I mean, at the end of the day, the bumper is there. If you can get into him a little bit, lean on him. Nothing wrong with that. And so for Gio, he raced hard, raced aggressive. We saw him get into it slightly with O'Clair, and then O'Clair, obviously side by side with Bitts, was probably one of the more interesting moments of the weekend so far, with him and Bitts getting into it and both being out of the second heat race, causing O'Clair to have to come from the back of the pack and give us an incredible show to watch in that feature race. But I think there's a lot of storylines to look at as well. I mean, we could talk about Frederick Lemieux, right? I mean, she swept the day at Phoenix last month. Yesterday, while maybe the pace wasn't there, she still clawed her way back to a 4th place finish, showing that the race pace overall is quick. I think her 1-lap pace is what's lacking so far. But for me, Emery, I think we're in for a really, really exciting weekend for the senior guys.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, starting from the front of the field, I mean, you feel like Macy Williams yesterday was the breakout star, winning in pretty convincing fashion, and so far she's on top early on here in this warm up. But Williams was good. Cooper Auclair having to come back from the DNF yesterday puts him in a little bit of a rougher spot from a point standpoint, but he has been so fast throughout the weekend and throughout the season as a whole that he's going to be on one today to try to get that last spot and try to kind of reestablish himself at the forefront of the championship points battle. Gio Santoro is another one that I think is going to be really interesting. I mean, you were talking about his kind of aggressiveness during the second heat, and at one point, I mean, I know we have our guy Tristan Farber is someone that is sponsored by Western Snowplows, and there was a point in that second heat where I was wondering if maybe not a snowplow, but some kind of bulldozing company might went Gio Santoro, not because of any like overly aggressive tactics, but because he certainly was putting that front bumper to good use. And I think, again, like we said then, we agreed with it. We thought the officials made the right call there not to give a penalty. It was fair racing, but certainly Santoro makes these races more entertaining to watch kind of with his aggressive style of driving. And I think that if he can find the pace, I guess, to match that aggressiveness, it'll be interesting to watch. He seems to be about 2 to 3 tenths off in every session. That's kind of keeping him all the way up at the front of the field. But still, Santoro in third so far. And then you've got, again, Frederick Lemieux has been someone that all season long we saw in Phoenix was so fast. And yesterday, she drove, I felt like, to get the maximum possible result out of her race to end up in fourth because it wasn't looking like it was going to be a top five for her throughout the entire day. She was kind of back after the top 10, put it together to get a good result. Then you got Boss Patel, another one that's had good pace throughout the weekend, maybe not the result. Oliver Bedard struggled mightily for pace all the way up until the final, seemed to find a good bit there, but he's going to have to recover from today. And then you got some of the other guys in the midfield, guys like Ian Q, who was back into the top 10 early part of the teams yesterday. Bradley Bitts, Landon Billy, they're all close together, but I think that they're going to have to find a little bit of extra pace to match Cooper Auclair and Macy Williams up at the front because they seem to have just that little bit of extra sauce that the rest of the field has not been able to keep up with so far this weekend.
Speaking of those two, right now it's Auclair who's topped the timesheets 6/1000ths of a second ahead of none other than Macy Williams. So again, the top two from yesterday for a majority of yesterday are the top two again so far in warm up. Third, Griffin Dowler. Really, the top three from yesterday is what we were seeing so far in warm up. So yeah, Gio Santoro in fourth. Olivier Bedard, he was the dark horse that I mentioned from yesterday's feature race to look out for. He was quick in Phoenix. Maybe for one reason or another, just the pace wasn't there overall. Top five so far in warm up. So this is back to what we've come to expect from Olivier there. Frederick Lemieux sits in sixth. Solid showing for her. Again, it's just a warm up session. These drivers are getting their bearings, right? I mean, haven't driven this track in over a day and a half. So again, like you mentioned, while most of them have driven the racetrack and they know the braking zones and all that, it takes a few laps to get back to the hang of things right after doing the exact opposite layout the day prior for about 5 sessions. So it takes a bit of re-racking of the brain, but again, these drivers are all athletes, all pros, so they all know what they're doing. For Auclair, still leading ahead of Lemieux now, who finds herself in third here for this warm-up session. So putting herself in a good spot there for the rest of the weekend so far. But I think the most exciting thing that I'm seeing from this warm-up session here, Emery, is the amount of passing we're seeing. We saw yesterday with this Musselman circuit that it gives us a lot of passing opportunities, but now with the straightaways essentially being longer, obviously the track didn't grow overnight, but with the slow corners that lead onto a long straightaway, you can get on the gas sooner than others, and we're seeing a lot of dive bomb opportunities in the hairpins, a lot of draft passes. So I think we're in for a treat because, to me, for one, Auclair and Williams separated by 6/1000ths of a second. But if you look from third to fifth, they're all within 2/10 of your leader. And with a draft opportunity that we're seeing with this racetrack, I think if you could be within 3 to 4/10, you're in that drafting window, and we're in for maybe a train potentially come these feature races later this afternoon.
Yeah, I think it's going to be some exciting racing. We already saw yesterday the Heat 2 in Senior was incredibly chaotic, and this layout provides even more of that. But I think we're going to see some good racing for sure. Today, though, The reverse layout, I think the biggest thing for me is the draft's going to play more of a role. So if you're within 2 to 3 tenths, you can be in the lead fight. It's going to make it difficult for someone like Macy Williams or Cooper Auclair to make a breakaway. And then in this mini field coming up next, it's going to make it harder for someone like Jackson Porter, who you see now exiting the pits behind Harrison Jeffrey. It's going to make it harder for him to kind of make a break for it as the lead driver. So this should be interesting. Yesterday looked like Jackson Porter was kind of under threat the whole day. He never really pulled away until the final when there was a lot of chaos behind him. So still, Porter's got to be the one to beat. He's yet to lose a single session this entire season in many, but it feels like yesterday was the closest we've come to seeing him be vulnerable. So we'll see how this all plays out, but I think the Porter so far might have to look a little bit more behind him today as it comes down to the end of the races where, again, the draft will play a big role. You've got Mateo Quinto, you've got Harrison Jeffrey. Both of them had strong podium runs yesterday. But really, Christian Sanguinetti and Gage Grant have shown the pace to where they can match Jackson Porter if they get the racecraft down and if they're able to start in the right spot. So a lot to look into here in Mini Max as they get it set for their first session of the weekend or of the day. Alex, I mean, what are you looking forward to in this class?
Excitement. I mean, they were one of the more fun classes to watch in Phoenix, but nothing could have prepared us for what we saw yesterday, with especially with Porter and Sanguinetti going back and forth in both heat races. Sanguinetti, in my opinion, up until that feature race where Porter started to stretch his legs a little bit, Sanguinetti was the fastest driver on the racetrack in Minimax. I mean, in the first heat, gave him a run for his money, and actually had Porter down in third for most of that second half of that first heat. And then Porter with a great crossover move to get a 2-for-1 special on the last lap. And then in heat two, Porter runs wide. Sanguinetti gets around him, defends too heavily into turn 5, and runs off the racetrack to give Porter the win. So there's a world where Porter, goes 0 for 2 in the heat races, right? I think the pace that he showed in the feature race made it inevitable that he was going to win that one. But for the heat races, he looked there was kinks in the armor, right? He looked beatable. And so if I'm the likes of Jeffrey, Quinto, Grant, Sanguinetti, the rest of the pack, I'm looking at this and I'm saying, there's a chance that I can win this race, and especially on a new layout, right? Limited practice on this layout. If I'm one of those drivers in the mix for a championship or even a race victory today, I like my chances heading into this one.
Yeah, and yesterday, again, the final was not what I think any of the challenging pack wanted, but you can still take a lot of positives away from that. And new layout, new day, new potential. We'll see how they go in warm up. I mean, already Gage Grant to the top of the charts after one lap, but I would expect the times to tumble here as drivers get their tires warmed up and to see
That was
more
Mateo Quinto there.
action.
Mateo Quinto actually out of the warm-up session, by the way, Emery, there, if you saw in the last corner. So the 134 Mateo Quinto, that's a big deal to miss the warm-up session because, having not driven this racetrack for a couple of days, it's going to all of a sudden now that qualifying session this morning is going to become his warm-up.
Yeah, no, that's a good point there. I missed that one, but Mateo Quinto not able to complete the warm-up session. Again, you lose 6 to 7 laps, which doesn't sound like a lot, but when you're getting dialed back into a circuit, you don't want to have to use that qualifying session to sort of dial yourself in. Now, granted, in this small of a field, it kind of makes sense to where you don't have to qualify up at the front necessarily. We've seen Jackson Porter slice his way back through after a poor start in Heat 2. We've seen Gage Grant go through the field a couple times, but it's doable, but you don't want to be on the back foot on a track like this where you're kind of getting back set up and having to kind of learn the track and also compete at the same time. And I mean, right now we're seeing Jackson Porter. He's clearly got the track dialed in. He's picking up tenths of a second at a time, upwards of 3 tenths quicker than the rest of the field. So Porter in this layout so far looks extremely comfortable. And again, the lap time difference around about half a second from the looks of it from what we saw yesterday. So I think that the times are going to continue to tumble a little bit more for these guys in the mini max category, but certainly Oh, big wobble there from Porter coming out of that sweeping corner. But as they get more comfortable, you'll see how much improvement they make as Porter down the straightaway going to get a good toe here from Harrison Jeffrey. If I'm Jeffrey and I see Porter coming behind, I'd be very tempted to just let him by and kind of reset yourself. Try to get a little bit of data, a little bit of information from the number 122 high V machine.
Yeah, how about that for Gage Grant, though? I mean, closes the gap to 2/10. Porter with a good draft on Jeffrey. I think this bodes well for, the likes of Gage Grant Sanguinetti, who now puts himself within 2/10 of Jackson Porter. So again, I think we're looking at more of the same from yesterday, where Porter still has that slight edge on the Minimax field, but again, beatable, right? And so to me, if I'm Gage Grant, I'm Sanguinetti, I'm coming away from this warm-up session feeling very, very confident. For Harrison Jeffrey there, we saw Porter catch up to the back of that Praga machine. 6/10 off so far in warm-up. He has a bit of pace to find compared to what we saw from yesterday. And then for, the likes of Wyatt Kroger, Vesper Majuska, they were quick, right? In that feature race, I think Kroger actually found a lot of pace from what we saw in the first two heat races to be impressive in that feature race as well. For Mateo Quinto, like I mentioned, right? No warm-up session. The qualifying now becomes your warm-up. It's really one of the only times where maybe you're more frustrated about missing warm-up. If this was the same layout as yesterday, you probably wouldn't mind that much. And especially with, some of the storms that hit the racetrack overnight. I mean, you almost some people would elect to have missed warm-up potentially, but with a new layout, you almost need it, right? To regroup, remember some of your braking zones and lines throughout the racetrack. So yeah, for Quinto, very, very frustrating for him. And he was one of the quick drivers from yesterday's 3 races and main event. So I think with him out in warm-up session, expect him to have to, wipe off some cobwebs in the opening couple of laps of the qualifying session. But for Jackson Porter, once again, no need for that. Already a 56 flat purple lap, 55.8 just resets his own purple lap to put 4/10 between him and Gage Grant in second place.
Yeah, this has been another dominant display from Jackson Porter. It's so hard to kind of get used to a new track layout if you don't have those extra laps. I think in the case of Mateo Quinto, losing out on the warm-up session is not good. But I also think one thing that is overlooked a little bit is the added benefit of running together. And you see now Gage Grant right behind Christian Sanguinetti. I think this sort of setup where you can learn directly from your competitor helps a lot when you're doing a new layout, because you're getting to see what they're doing from a braking zone, and then you get your own chance to kind of adapt. So to me, you're essentially gaining twice as much data as you would on a normal lap where you're just by yourself. And so I think this is really smart by Gage Grant to just stick there behind Christian Sanguinetti. And you'll learn more from that than you would trying to push and trying to be all by yourself. So this is smart on Gage Grant's part. It's good for Sanguinetti as well to kind of get a little bit of feedback once he gets back to the tent to learn what he needs to improve on a little bit. And again, I mean, these guys and many, they have some work to do when it comes to catching up to Jackson Porter, but they're certainly pretty relentless when it comes to trying to find that lost little bit. I mean, yesterday we saw Sanguinetti have so much pace during the heat races. He really should have been starting on the front row. A couple small errors there from his side of things took away from what would have been a really good effort from him. But right now, I mean, the guy to beat, it's the Scottsdale native himself, Jackson Porter, the Flying Hawaiian, as they call him, has been absolutely flying all season long. And this warm-up session was no different. 3.5 tenths of a second back to Harrison Jeffrey. And I mean, that sounds kind of ominous for the rest of the day, Alex.
Yeah, but I will say this. I mean, for the likes of Harrison Jeffrey, right, who struggled to open up this warm-up session, he'll take a P2 there and only 3/10 back from the high grade machine. So for Jeffrey, I think it's a good performance. For Grant Sanguinetti, I think leaves a little bit to be desired in terms of those two were working together, and they're still lacking a bit of pace. But again, they were two of the drivers yesterday that were putting a fight to Jackson Porter and actually ahead of Jackson Porter, if you remember, in that first heat race. So all still to play for. Again, just warm up, no trophies up for grabs there for warm up. But coming up next after this quick commercial break from our sponsors, get ready for some qualifying.
So you finally want to get behind the wheel, huh?
Yeah, I've been shooting for 3 years and I've never got to drive.
Well, you're gonna need some more gear than just your helmet. Why don't you go to shopakr.com? They got their inventory online and they'll ship it the same day if you order before 5:30 p.m. Eastern.
They got shoes,
Yep,
gloves,
yep,
rip protectors.
got those too.
Can they make me go fast?
No.
Here at Acceleration Kart Racing, we've got everything you need to get on track. What happens next? Well, that's on you. Check us out online at shopakr.com.
Here at MPG Motorsports, our main goal is to provide the best pathway to professional motorsports for our entire team, drivers and mechanics alike. We're based out of Whiteland Raceway Park in Indiana. For more information, contact us at chase@mpg-motorsports.com.
Studies show that even the best current generation of simulators only convince 50% of the human brain that they are real. Here at Simcraft, that just isn't realistic enough. Developed to offer the most realistic karting sim experience in the world, all testing has shown that the physics engine used in Simcraft's Grid 1 model convinces 90% of the human brain that you are actually on track. Now that is the real deal.
Hi, I'm Justin Stefani with J3 Competition and Race Rotax. I'm proud to announce that XGel is going to be the title and presenting sponsor for the 2024 Trophy Series events held by J3 Competition and Race Rotax.
The partnership will go beyond the technical level. The XGel Academy will provide a driver exchange program which allows 3 drivers to participate in a race of their respective championship. 1 driver in each class, in the mini, in the junior and the senior, will be allowed the chance to participate in a race of the Japanese championship, while 3 drivers from the Japanese championship will join the American series. We believe this program represents an incredible opportunity for young drivers to showcase their skills on the international level, acquire more racing experience, and also making unforgettable memories. At One Aim, we're very excited to bring 2 realities together like XGel Motorsport and the Rotax Max US Trophy, and we feel this is the beginning of a great journey.
So you finally want to get behind the wheel, huh?
Yeah, I've been shooting for 3 years and I've never got to drive.
Well, you're gonna need some more gear than just your helmet. Why don't you go to shopakr.com? They got their inventory.
commercial break.
Are you looking for an advantage in your competition? Well, Kart Class has done the hard work for you. We've travelled to your racetracks to give you the inside knowledge. So what does Kart Class offer? We've got drone footage that captures the racing lines, visual markers for your braking points, acceleration zones, and the best overtake opportunities on your racetrack. Pedal cam to show you where to brake and when to accelerate, and 360-degree footage to make sure you don't miss any parts on the racetrack. We've covered 13 racetracks in the United States, and Australia, you're up next. So visit kartclass.com to get your track information.
Here at MPG Motorsports, our main goal is to provide the best pathway into professional motorsports for our entire team, drivers and mechanics alike. We're based out of Whiteland Raceway Park in Indiana. For more information, contact us at chase@mpg-motorsports.com.
Can you hear it? 1 week where the silence is broken. $394 drivers, 60 nations, united in their goal to be the best, the very best.
This is the most equal race in the whole world. I will win. There's no opportunity.
No one has ever won junior, senior and DD2 before, and that's what we're aiming for this week.
1 week where every second counts. Every corner, every pass. The competition does not get tougher than this, closer than this, more intense than this. 7 week. And when all is said and done, and the silence returns, 12 months of hard work is about this week. 1 week. The 2022 Rotax Grand Finals.
Why do you come here? Is this your career?
Or is it all about fun? A chance to get away and leave it all behind?
Or do you chase your personal best? Challenging yourself over and over again. Why do you come here?
Maybe you're here to collect moments. Good ones. And not so good ones.
Or you can't afford mistakes because you want that victory. It's all about this one moment when the hard work finally pays off.
This is the place that brings us closer to the people who share our story. Whoever we are.
Whatever we're here for. Racing is who we are.
We're at a commercial break.
I need a new 219 chain. I need a 77 tooth wrist sprocket. I need some more chain lube, and I need it probably as soon as like tomorrow. Dude, are you even listening? Like, we need this to run this weekend.
Want anything else?
What do you mean?
I already got it in the Kart on Acceleration Kart Racing's online store, bro. All orders over $200 get free shipping.
Oh, throw in a set of tires.
Done.
Everything you need, all in one place and shipped to your door for free on orders of $200 or more. Exclusions apply. Shop AKR.com.
Hello and welcome back from a quick break there from our warm-up sessions now to start qualifying, beginning with the Junior Max category. This is the Race Rotex's U.S. Trophy West Series presented by XScale Motorsports. My name is Alexander Searle. With me in the booth is Emery Lida. Emery, Junior Max getting ready and set to take the racetrack for their qualifying session today. If you remember from yesterday, let's take a look at our qualifying results. Although alternative layout today doesn't matter as much, but just to give the viewers back at home a brief overview of what we can kind of expect from a qualifying session here. Yesterday, it was Max Eggleston on the pole position, Antoine Lemieux in second, Gage Corn, Kyle Drysdale, Xander Malatesta. That is roughly the top 5 that we saw in today's warm-up session on an alternate layout. So again, we can expect more of the same. Those are really the top 5 that we saw from Phoenix as well. So for Eggleston, looking good in the championship, as well as Lemieux, Gage Corn, Kyle Drysdale. Major storylines from yesterday, right? Eggleston with a DNF in that second heat, started mid-pack, won the feature race. Lemieux consistently top 3 all day long. Gage Corn was top 2 all day long, including a heat race victory in the first heat. Finished 4th in the feature race. Kyle Drysdale unfortunately had to start from the back of the pack in that feature race, but walked away with a top 5 finish. So a lot to look forward to here, Emery. But first, they need to hit the racetrack and go qualifying.
They sure do. And again, this is a 10-minute or 8-minute qualifying session, and you're going to see, I would say, most of the guys are going to have their money lap on lap 5 or so, but that's in theory. The reality is, with a little bit of a cooler track today after the rain from last night and guys still figuring out the layout a little bit, I think you're going to see a little bit of a difference when it comes to when the money lap is for these guys in each session. And so in Junior Max yesterday, we saw Max Eggleston be absolutely rapid. He was very quick in warm-up as well. But guys like Kyle Drysdale and Antoine Lemieux had good pace throughout the day once they kind of get it figured out. And Gage Corn was probably the main protagonist for most of the day against Max Eggleston until the final. So those are all guys I think will be in with a good shot at pole, but Xander Malatesta is another one that has been quick at different points. We haven't seen a whole lot of Killian Harris this weekend, but he'll be looking for more. And then as well as that, Cadence Presley had a really good run in warm-up. We'll see if he can back it up as we get into this qualifying session here in a minute.
Yeah, for sure. Again, a lot to look forward to. Cadence, obviously much more pumped for today than yesterday with all the different things that happened for him throughout the day. But a top 5 warm-up, certainly things to look forward to here for qualifying as the karts get ready to hit the racetrack there. Key things to note, we saw Eggleston and Drysdale go out together out of the pits. So things to look out for. We mentioned it earlier on in the broadcast, right? The track doesn't grow overnight, but when you reverse the layout, sometimes the straightaways essentially get longer. So for this racetrack, all of a sudden, those quick entry corners, late apexes become, sort of an earlier apex, a slower entry, which means you get to the power sooner, essentially creating a longer straightaway. Draft is a little bit more important going this way. Some of these hairpins now become slower entries into faster exits. What that means is you have to get on the brakes a little bit harder, a little bit longer, creates for dive bomb opportunities come the heat races. So more and more things to look forward to as today progresses. I think we're in for a good one here, but the driver's now on the racetrack and getting set and ready to go here. Yeah, it's going to be a long qualifying session, about 7 minutes left still. That was just the outlap there. Here's a good view of Max Eggleston. Looks over his shoulder. He's going to wait and maybe try to let Kyle Drysdale by. And he's going to slot back in line and get a good tow here. Yeah, smart move there for Eggleston. If I'm Drysdale, I note that immediately, and I try to do the exact same thing back. To me, the best place to be in a qualifying session on a racetrack where draft is important enough, like it is in the Junior Max class, I like to be third in line, because at worst, if the first guy drops out of line, I still have a tow on the second guy. But if no one drops out of line, you have essentially a double tow. So third, sometimes fourth is the best place to be, but at least second. You rarely ever want to be the guy leading the train, because usually it'll come back to bite you here. But again, you mentioned it, Emery, right? the trend was lap 3, lap 4, sometimes lap 5 was the purple lap here. So that's the first opening lap there for Drysdale. So obviously goes to the top of the board. He's the first one to cross the line here. But again, these times for the first 2 laps don't usually tend to matter unless a huge rainstorm hits the racetrack come lap 2. Then these laps are really going to start to matter. But I'm expecting lap times about a second and a half quicker than even what we saw in these opening laps. So right now it is Antoine Lemieux at a 53.4 going purple, 3/10 ahead of any other lap times. But again, you can look at the field spread. There's 7/10 within your top 4 so far. Gage Corn now tops the timing sheets. Again, this is what we saw from Gage yesterday when he was top 2 all 3 of the morning sessions in qualifying. He won the first heat, second in the second heat, or third in the second heat, put him on pole for the final where he finished 4th. The pace is there over 1 lap. It's really over the course of 12 to 14 laps where you start to look at it and say, can he sustain that pace throughout the day? That's going to be what they worked on most likely overnight into today on the alternate layout. But right now, it is now Nick Eggleston topping the timesheets 2 laps into this qualifying session, Emery, 2/10 clear of Kyle Drysdale.
Yeah, and again, Nick Eggleston picking up where he left off yesterday. Yesterday, he had about 2/10 on the field in qualifying. Again, a 51.0 was the fast time yesterday. Today, we're in the low 52s so far. I would expect that to get closer to the mid 51s to high 51s by the end of the session. But still, Gage Corn resets fast time, a 52.13. We'll wait for everyone else to come across for their 3rd lap. But Corn, all by himself again, maybe a little bit unconventional in this sort of track. Will that play a factor? So far, it looks like it will, because Kyle Drysdale resets the fast time again. Drysdale, we saw earlier, working around some other guys. Nick Eggleston into the 51.7 second bracket. So he's now got half a tenth on Drysdale in the number 220. So now Eggleston and Drysdale, you can make an argument, have been the 2 quickest karts so far this weekend on average. And they now have a 3/10 of a second buffer from the rest of the grid. The likes of Antoine Lemieux was able to unseat Gage Corn. And now you can see coming to the start-finish line, I believe that is one of the other MPGs, maybe Mason Kuhn or Cadence Presley. Or is that Corn? I think that is Gage Corn coming across there, 2:33. Yeah, it's Corn. My bad on that one. I just got a little bit tripped up on the timing being delayed. But yeah, Gage Corn at 51.906 that time around. That is back within a tenth or 2. But Antoine Lemieux now. Whoa, Antoine Lemieux at 51.6 goes way quicker there. How about an extra tenth on Nick Eggleston? Finds 6/10 of a second on his 4th lap to take P1 there. So Lemieux unsets the Eggleston and Drysdale line at the front of the field, and now all of a sudden we're back to having a close grid again. So at the start of qualifying, it looked like Eggleston and Drysdale had a big advantage, but that has been dwindled real quickly here as Corn comes across to complete yet another lap for him. We'll see what he can put on the board here. Waiting now to see what that time goes up to, a 51.7. So these guys into lap 5 are still finding 2/10 of a second chunks. That indicates to me that their tires still are not quite fully in yet, or they haven't dialed themselves into the track, because now we see Cadence Presley jump into the top 5 again, and Nick Eggleston resets his time into the 51.6 bracket to go P2. But it's Antoine Lemieux, who's on your screen now, who has just set a blistering lap and is now going to get a little bit of a tow here coming out through the second half of the lap, Alex.
Yeah, something to note, though, for Gage Corn. Really impressive lap time. Only 900th off by himself. Lemieux there getting a small tow off of the driver ahead of them. I believe that is Kyle Drysdale. Behind Antoine, though, is Nick Eggleston. So look for Eggleston this time around to set a blistering lap. Gage Corn goes P2, 200th off of what Lemieux did here. But as they round the final corner here, we'll see what the timing says here with 2 minutes to go in qualifying. This is now laps 5 and 6. So I'm expecting the tires to begin to fall off here, but maybe they have one more lap in them where they can improve here as they cross the stripe. Lemieux does not improve. Eggleston doesn't improve. Drysdale doesn't improve either. And matter of fact, Olivier Mirac does improve. Yesterday's 3rd place finisher in 4th right now in qualifying. So a good showing for him. But how about it? Less than 400th of a second separates your top 3 in Junior Max. Once again, this class showing, how close the level of competition is here in the U.S. Trophy West Series.
Yeah, I mean, how about it? The top 11, basically all but two guys in your field, all within half a second there. I mean, Cole Medeiros, who yesterday was really quick before DNF, is now all the way back in 10th position, and he's only 4 tenths off, which is a decent chunk, but it's not that far. And when you consider the field quality here, this is impressive to see how close they are together. So there you see Xander Malatesta jumps his way up into fourth there at 51.77. And I mean, yeah, you're talking about the top 7 or the top 11 with a .408, the top 6 within 2 tenths, and the top 3 within 400s. As Nick Eccleston going to try to do whatever he can to find that last little bit. The last time through another 51.65. He just needs 4 more hundreds somewhere, and he's done a 6.5 twice now. So he's got the consistency aboard that Kart. Just needs to find that last bit of pace here. We'll see if he sticks it out here as they come across. And no, I think that's the end of the session there. So Nick Eccleston, not going to be enough for him to get pole position. How about it for Antoine Lemieux? Yesterday, struggled a bit in the early part of the day. Seemed like he figured out the setup over the course of the day. Today, starts out on the strong foot, wins pole position with Gage Corn alongside him. Nick Eccleston in third, Xander Malatesta fourth, Olivier Mrek in fifth, and we have got a barn burner coming for us later on today in the Rotax Junior Max category. Sorry there.
Yeah, for sure. Looking to be a great day of racing for the Junior Max class. Antoine Lemieux on pole by only 200th ahead of Gage Corn, Nick Eggleston, Malatesta, Olivier Marac in your top 5, Drysdale in 6, Cadence Presley after a rough day on Saturday with a 7th place qualifying for him. He'll take that one certainly. Killian Harris 8th, Countryman 9th, Mason Duchesne rounds out your top 10 in Junior Max. But on your screen right now, the Micromax kids, 8 to 12-year-olds, are hitting the racetrack, led by, well, on the screen, led by Connor Lipka, but really led by Lucas Tarango, who in warm-up was putting a second a lap on the entirety of this field. Let's see if any of these drivers, like the comp car on your screen, has made any sort of adjustments. As Lucas Tarango, I guess he is human. He just spun entering what is, I believe, turn number 5 on this layout. So, yeah, that is the first mistake I think we've seen from Tarango all season long, proving that maybe he isn't a robot after all. So for Tarango, that's going to put a bit of a wrench in his opening lap there. Maybe he now he's going to be in a rougher spot, to get a draft off anybody. But with the pace that we saw in warm up, I don't think it's going to matter too much here. So Connor Lipka on your screen by himself out front, feeling confident enough where he doesn't need a tow behind him. Yutaka Tsunoda was quick all through yesterday. So I think we're in for a treat here, but if warm-up is anything to go off of right now, it's so far the battle for P2.
Yeah, I mean, Lucas Tarango there, the spin on the warm-up lap. I mean, the optimist side, you just say, like code got messed up by a line or two, because, I mean, he has been so robotic all weekend long, and really with the exception of one battle with Cam Becker, has been robotic all season long as well. So I think this is going to be one of the more interesting battles for second. I think we have to wait and see what happens to see if anyone can come close to this pace of Tarango. Again, in practice, it was almost a second on every single lap. And so qualifying, we're going to see something special for Connor Lipka. Here they come across the line to kind of get their first lap in the books here. Lipka goes to 1 minute point 253 or 250. Tsunoda down there, but already Lucas Tarango to the top of the charts. 2.5 tenths back to Paxton Romero. That's a pretty good first lap from Romero, but I will remind you, it's the first lap of qualifying, and if warm-up was anything to go off of, the times were about 1.5 seconds to 2 seconds quicker than what we're seeing right here. And it also seems like Tarango's made a pass here on Tyson Underwood on that last lap through. So we'll see how Tarango does here, but so far a good run for Paxton Romero to slot himself into second, a full half second clear of the next closest non-Lucas Tarango driver.
Yeah, but like you mentioned, right, a good opening lap for Paxton Romero, who I believe is getting a decent tow off of what looks to be, Tyson Underwood. So Tarango right now in no man's land here. It could play dividends for the drivers behind him as they cross the stripe, but Tarango is actually getting a really good tow off of Yutaka Tsunoda. What's this lap going to do for Tarango? 7/10 clear of Connor Lipka last time by. Wow. Or sorry, of Paxton Romero now, who sets his lap to go P2. So it's Tarango at a 57.9. Next closest driver is the 55 of Paxton Romero, 7/10 behind, and then Connor Lipka as well, 7/10 behind Lucas Tarango. So they found 3/10 to Tarango from warm-up to qualifying as Tarango up on the wheel. Tsunoda with a poor exit out of turn 5. This is going to hinder Tarango's third laps here. So this is actually going to help out the drivers who are behind him in this qualifying session, because lap 3, that's a risky move there from Tarango through the fast S's. A bit of a glimpse of what we can expect to see come heat time for the rest of the classes there. That's the first time I've seen that move all day long. So risky stuff there in a qualifying session for Tarango, but it goes to show you just where his head's at throughout this qualifying session. Look further back. That's Paxton Romero getting a good draft off of Tyson Underwood. This could be a good lap. It is 57.9. Paxton Romero 2/10 behind Tarango, and then Lipka as well 3/10 back. So the field spread is a lot closer than it was in yesterday's main event and this morning's warm-up, as there's a move to the inside for Romero. Doesn't want to sit behind Tyson Underwood for much longer. He feels as though he's got a good piece underneath him for today's races later this afternoon. So the 55 machine, Paxton Romero up on the wheel with 3.5 minutes left. There's maybe 1 or 2 more good laps left in these tires, but it doesn't seem to matter as much in the micro and mini categories compared to what you see in the junior and senior categories, where lap 4, lap 5 is the money lap. In micro and mini, it tends to be sometimes lap 7. So for these guys with 3 minutes left, it's all still to play for now. But with Tarango not stuck behind Tsunoda anymore, let's see what this lap does for the number 7 machine. It's not an improvement. So again, still up for grabs here for the likes of Romero and Lipka. Crosses the stripe. What's it going to do for Romero? Not enough. Not enough for Lipka either. So maybe the tires are starting to fall off a little bit here in qualifying. Potentially, though, Tarango and Romero both made passes on that previous lap. So now this is the lap where I expect to maybe see some improvements for these drivers. But again, Emery, warm-up, it was a second between Tarango and anybody else. It's only 2/10 now.
Yeah, no, it definitely looks a lot closer. Although I will say in warm-up, Tarango was able to pull off a 57.3. So he's definitely got some more meat on the bone he can get to if he puts it together. But I mean, this has been impressive to see Paxton Romero and Connor Lipka still get into the fight. So that's the thing. Right now, less than 0.4 of a second back to those two. We'll see what Tarango does on this time through. Just visually doesn't look that much quicker, but we'll see if that is the case. Yeah, no, a 57.7. So consistently, Tarango not finding any extra pace here. And that is a good thing for the Paxton Romeros of the world, the Connor Lipkos of the world, who just did a 58.00. So these guys are sticking a lot closer to Tarango. I don't know if it's Tarango kind of off his game maybe after the spin earlier in the session, or if it's them picking up, or probably a combination of both. But Lucas Tarango now a little bit more under threat than he was at any point yesterday, and really at any point this weekend either. So impressive stuff from the rest of the field. Tyson Underwood's gotten close now into 4th place after struggling a bit earlier in the session. Yutaka Tsunoda in that 5th position. So this battle for the couple spots on the podium could be fun, but they're all coming a little bit closer now to Lucas Tarango. Now, this time around, visually looks a little bit better this lap for Tarango. We'll see if my eyes are correct. And yes,
Whoa.
A 57.22. That was a heater from Lucas Tarango. I don't know what happened the previous 2 laps, but that is more in line with what we saw from him in warm-up and throughout the rest of the weekend. So Tarango there puts on the gas, turns on the gas, turns on the stove, and goes into P1 there, almost 7/10 clear of what Paxton Romero could do.
Wow. I mean, he has this innate ability to turn up the wick when it matters. And this is not to discredit what we've seen from the guys behind him, because Romero, Lipka, and Underwood have been very consistent throughout the session. I mean, within a 10th of each lap that they're doing. And you could say the same for Tarango. He was consistently at a 57.6, 57.7 all session long, but on lap 6, a 57.2. Unreal stuff there for Lucas Tarango, using all the racetrack on the exit. He's going to go for one more lap here, crosses the stripe. Can he improve on a 57.2 this time around? Wow. a 57 flats for Lucas Tarango. I mean, unreal stuff as Connor Lipka and Tyson Underwood both set their best laps of the session. Not enough, though. They're still 7.5 to 8 tenths behind what Lucas Tarango is able to do. I mean, it's almost like he's playing a video game and he's turned on the grip to full max here throughout on this racetrack. I mean, for the first 5 laps, it looked as though maybe, the grip's gone away from him. He actually was slowing down midway through the session. And then, just turned the sliders all the way up and put it together at 57 flat when it matters here, Emery.
Yeah, the grip hacks are alive and well with Lucas Tarango. So he puts almost 8 tenths on the field. And the thing about that lap, too, Connor Lipka was in front of him. He was the driver that Tarango was chasing down. And Lipka put in his fastest lap. There was nothing notably wrong with that lap. And you could just see Tarango visually close the gap. 8 kart lengths in 1 lap. It's insane to see Lucas Tarango on another mission, another level this weekend. He grabs pole position. Connor Lipka, Tyson Underwood, and Paxton Romero, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. All of them right there together. Even Yutaka Sonoda in 5th put together a pretty good lap to be within 2 to 3 tenths of those guys at the end of the session. So again, that battle for the podium is going to be exciting to watch later on today. But man, Lucas Tarango just in a different zip code. I mean, he has been sensational all weekend long, sensational all season long. And I mean, another P1, another dominant session here for Tarango. Again, this has been one of the more exciting things to watch this weekend. I mean, you normally don't love to see breakaway races, but when a kid is 7 to 8 tenths clear of the field, it becomes almost a spectacle. I mean, you're watching essentially why people that like Red Bull like to see Max Verstappen win races in F1, because he's just such a robotic in how he drives. And so for Tarango to get himself into P1, almost 8 tenths of a second clear of the field, is sensational in Micromax. But again, we go from the youngest superstar in the field to the guys that are more established, more senior, call it the headline division. It's the Senior Max as well as the Masters Max field. They're out here on for their second qualifying session of the weekend here at the U.S. Trophy West Series by RMC, presented by J3 Competition as well as XL. This is going to be an exciting session, Alex, with really what looks to be anywhere from 5 to 10 guys that could really easily get pole position here in this session.
Yeah, I mean, if warm-up is anything to go off of, then certainly that's the case. I mean, we saw yesterday in that qualifying session, in those heats as well, the lap time differential was really nothing. You put a blanket over them. This morning in the warm-up session, it was Auclair ahead of Macy Williams by 6 thousandths of a second. The top 2 from yesterday's qualifying and heat races are again the top 2 today. Then it's Frederick Lemieux after I wouldn't even say disappointing is the wrong word, because she was still faster today, a 4th place in the feature race. But I'd say a head scratcher throughout the heats for her, struggling to get in the top 5 after a sweep of the weekend in Phoenix a month ago. So for her, a 3rd place in warm-up, she'll certainly take that heading into qualifying right now as the drivers get ready and set to take their first lap here. We mentioned it with the junior guys. With the Senior Max drivers, it tends to be lap 3 through 5 where we can expect that purple lap to come in. So again, this first lap, barring any mistakes from any drivers throughout the session, doesn't tend to matter so much. But for the likes of Boss Patel and others on your screen, so far so good for him. 2nd place right now. Macy Williams topping her timing sheets at a 50.7 so far. Gio Santora 3rd, Griffin Dowler 4th in Q, rounding out your top 5 as it stands. But again, they've only completed 1 lap. Macy Williams completed 2 laps so far. But Emery, I mean, who stands out to you, in this session where you could say, okay, they have a good chance at pole position? Maybe one that we haven't spoke about so far this weekend.
Yeah, I mean, the easy answers, the ones that we've talked about a lot, Macy Williams and Cooper Auclair. But how about it for Boss Patel? Yesterday he was on for a good result throughout the weekend. He was inside the top 6 or so. He's within a 10th and a half of what Macy Williams has done on the first couple laps. And he's really had good single lap pace. He was good in qualifying yesterday. He was good in qualifying in Phoenix. So I'm watching for Boss Patel as well as Spencer Smith, who just popped up to second. I think both of those guys have been kind of in the middle part of the top 10 with better single lap pace than long run pace. I think both of them could be good challengers for pole position, but they've got to top off the one on your screen right now, and that is Macy Williams, who has been rapid throughout this weekend. No matter what the layout is, no matter where she's been on the track, she has been placing her go-kart in really good places and going into P1, which she is right now. But Spencer Smith, Boss Patel, Cooper Auclair, all relatively close in company, as well as Griffin Dowler, who just popped into fourth there. Alex.
Yeah, Dowler's quick. Williams looks quick as well as she just rounds off her fourth lap of the session, a 50.5, putting 2/10 on her in the field. Frederick Lemieux now. It's 1-2 for the girls up top. Macy Williams, Frederick Lemieux, a 10.5 behind what Williams was able to do last time around. Spencer Smith so far in third position. Auclair, the main contender to Macy Williams yesterday. Wow, a 50.4 for Cooper Auclair on board the comp cart. He puts himself into P1 as it stands on lap 4. This is around the time that we can expect these drivers to really set their fast laps. So expect this and the next lap to be the ones that decide it. On your screen is Griffin Dowler. Last time around, crossed the stripe. Didn't improve on his lap. 5th place so far for him on lap 4. Boss Patel, we spoke about him earlier on in the session. He sits 6th. Bradley Bitts in 7th. He and Auclair had contact and both didn't finish the second heat race. Major controversy there in yesterday's second race. They both had to start from the tail end, essentially, in the feature race. But as it stands, it's Auclair on top as he's getting ready to round the final couple of corners and complete his 5th lap. For Macy Williams, though, didn't improve on her 5th lap. Neither does Cooper Auclair. So maybe lap 4 was the money lap. We might be seeing our pole lap already. Here goes Griffin Dowler into the pits. Griffin Dowler says, I'm done with this one. My lap is not improving. A couple more drivers crossing the stripe as it stands. That's Bradley Bitts and Boss Patel. No improvement for them. I think that might be it, Emery. I mean, it looks as though lap 4 for everybody was their best lap. And if I'm these drivers, if I look at my Micron and I see that my lap times aren't improving, might as well save tires for the heat races.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think if you're in the top 5, that's 100% your mindset. That's what Griffin Dowler did. I'm imagining that's what Cooper Auclair and Macy Williams are going to do here in the next lap or so. If I was down in about the 14th, 13th, 12th, 13th on back, someone like Gio Santoro who feels like he did not get the most out of his kart when the tires are at their premium, what I would consider doing is doing a real slow lap, cooling the tires as much as possible, and then trying to get at least another 3 or 4 spots, because starting 5th or 6th versus starting 12th is a huge difference. And you're probably not going to improve too much with the tires in their current state, with them already heated up and everything. But if you can kind of run a really slow, I'm feeling like a 105, 110 type of lap, kind of slow everything down, reset the temperatures, and then go for another push lap. That might be the only chance I can really see at someone being able to put together a really fast lap here. But I mean, right now it looks like the top 5 pretty firmly entrenched, as no one was able to really improve on their most recent lap. Lemieux did improve a little bit on her 6th lap, but other than that, everyone else in the top 6 not able to do anything to get anywhere closer to what Cooper Auclair did on lap number 5 or on lap number 4.
Yeah, and Auclair in the pits. I'm actually shocked that Macy Williams was even still out there so far, but I'm expecting her to take into the pits this time around. Boss Patel still setting lap times here, trying to get everything out of his go-kart. Not going to happen. I expect he's going to be coming into the pits this time around there. It's a 6th place for Boss Patel. I mean, if you look at how the field looks so far, and I think this is how it's going to remain, Emery, maybe for your top 5, I suspect no one's going to improve because they're all in the pits. So Auclair on pole position in senior Max, ahead of Macy Williams by 0.05 of a second. Frederick Lemieux in 3rd place. Spencer Smith, what a run for him to qualify in 4th. And it's Griffin Dowler on the Red Speed go-kart in 5th. Boss Patel in 6th. Bradley Bitts in 7th. Olivier Bedard in 8th. Julian Swanson, good run for him. Only did 5 laps in this session in 9th. Ian Qualy rounding out your top 10. That is Carson Mallett. Gio Santora is probably, I'd say, the shock of this qualifying session. I mean, a top 5 driver in all of the events yesterday in 12th. Charlotte Trainer 13th, Jeremy Cooper 14th, Savannah Callis rounds out your top 15. But how about it? I mean, 6/10 separating your top 15 here in Senior Max.
Yeah, if I'm being honest, I'm a little bit intrigued as to why we didn't see Gio Santora kind of go for another extra lap there, because I really do think when you see a 51.0, you know that time's probably not going to be enough to be into the top 10. And it's just kind of like a risk analysis thing. I think anyone outside the top 10, yes, you lose a lap or two of tire wear, but on these Mojo tires, the heat cycles is what makes a bigger difference in the laps themselves. I mean, obviously, a 20-lap session is going to have more wear than a 3-lap session, but when you're comparing 5 to 6 laps, it's not as huge of an issue. So I think for them kind of pulling in a lap early maybe isn't quite worth it compared to someone like Cooper O'Clair who knew they weren't going to improve, or Macy Williams, Lemieux, Spencer Smith, and Griffin Dowler. But anywhere outside the top 10, I would have considered running an extra lap. But nonetheless, a good run for Cooper O'Clair, Macy Williams. Those we've seen them at the front. We've seen Lemieux. We've seen Spencer Smith and Griffin Dowler around there. Boss Patel, Bradley Bitts in 7th. Oliver Bedard in 7th. Those top 8, all kind of guys that we've expected to be in the front. But how about it for Julian Swanson? A good run after what seemed to be a little bit of a down result yesterday to end up in 9th. Ian Q cracked the top 10. He was right around there all day yesterday, but today into the top 10, only 0.4 of a second off. He can work with that. So a lot of storylines to follow here in the first heat of Senior Max coming up in a little bit. But for now, we're getting set to go for the Mini Max qualifying here, Alex.
Yeah, Mini Max on your screen. I mean, yesterday, some of the more exciting races we saw in every single event yesterday. I'd say the feature was the one that maybe left a little bit to be desired for us as a viewer, just because Jackson Porter set some heater lap times throughout that feature race and pulled away from the rest of the pack. But in Heat 1 and Heat 2, it was not the Jackson Porter show that we expected. It was more of the Christian Sanguinetti and Gage Grant show, but with the mistakes that those drivers made throughout the heat races, it gave Porter a sweep of the day, and so far a sweep of the championship series as it stands. But if there's ever a session where that could be knocked off, it is this one right here, where we see the likes of Christian Sanguinetti on your screen looking to make amends for some of his mistakes yesterday in the heat races, and to really unlock the pace that we can come to expect from that 121 machine with how fast he was, arguably the fastest driver consistently throughout the day in qualifying and Heat 1 and Heat 2 here as they get ready to start their first flying lap. I mean, if that Senior Max qualifying session is anything to go off of, lap 4 is the money lap. But in the micro class, we saw lap 7, lap 8 for Lucas Tarango be the purple lap. So again, for the little kids, I think it's a little bit different in terms of the money lap. I don't think it's as important for these Mojo tires as it is for the junior and senior max categories. But nonetheless, Christian Sanguinetti looking to top the timing sheets here in qualifying, but he's going to have to do something about the 122 machine of Jackson Porter.
Yeah, I mean, there's going to have to be a pretty big development here for the likes of Sanguinetti and anyone to beat what Jackson Porter was able to do in warm-up and what he's done all season long. But Sanguinetti, it must be said, has been very quick at points throughout the season. Rounds 1 and 2 had his moments in Phoenix. Round 3 yesterday was quickest in both of the heats, in my opinion, just did not quite finish off the races for whatever reason. And so now he gets clear track ahead of him. He gets a good chance. Here's a look at Harrison Jeffrey aboard the Praga machine. He has been consistently quick. Yesterday, I felt like was a good step forward in his racecraft, getting himself onto the podium, working with Mateo Quinto. Today, he'll be looking for more. And then how about it for Gage Grant coming up here in a little bit? He just went purple ahead of Jackson Porter. There, you still see Jeffrey working his way through the S's. But, I mean, you can see the amount of guys that I feel like are on the cusp of being in contention for these wins in the Mini-Max class is pretty crazy to see, because Grant, Sanguinetti, Quinto, and Harrison Jeffrey all have shown good pace at various points. They just need to kind of finish off the day. They need to put it all together in a main event to get themselves into P1. And Jackson Porter, for him, well, his goal is to make sure that doesn't happen. And so we'll see how it goes. Here goes Harrison Jeffrey to finish his second flying lap. Again, Sanguinetti goes purple at 55.99. Jeffrey not quite as quick from the looks of it, as he was not really able to improve much on his lap of 56.7. Gage Grant a 56.0, Quinto a 56.3. The last guy to cross is going to be the more interesting story here. What can Jackson Porter do? He goes to the top of 55.84, but still, Sanguinetti within a tenth and a half here as they get set through the second lap of qualifying here, Alex.
Yeah, this is enticing stuff. I mean, if we remember with Mateo Quinto on your screen right now, the 134 OTK driver, I mean, he missed warm-up, right? So this is essentially his warm-up session now. And so for him to only be 5/10 off what Jackson Porter is able to do, and he's still, probably learning a few things or remembering a few things from Friday's practice, it's impressive to see for Mateo Quinto as he rounds the final corner here to get ready to cross the line to finish his third lap there. How about it for Christian Sanguinetti? Tops the timing sheets there, 55.683, resets the purple lap in qualifying. This is impressive stuff for Christian Sanguinetti. He was the driver that I mentioned is the one to look out for. Gage Grant now goes to P2. Jackson Porter rounding the final couple of corners now as Quinto goes fourth, 3/10 off of pole position. Impressive stuff for him. Jackson Porter now 55.5, retakes pole position there on lap 3 of this qualifying session. Only 0.08 of a second ahead of Sanguinetti and Gage Grant. So, I mean, I think we can confidently say, Emery, that the 121, the 115, the 134, they've all found pace from warm-up to qualifying here. And I think we're in for round 2 of Sanguinetti versus Jackson Porter.
Yeah, this has been a good development to see now. Sanguinetti as well as Gage Grant having the pace in qualifying, more pace than we've really seen from them all weekend long on the alternate. Now, Sanguinetti goes P1 at 55.52. That is the pace we want to see from Christian Sanguinetti, but it's one thing to have that pace. It's another thing to race with it as Gage Grant goes to the top. We'll see what Jackson Porter can do there. There's a look at Grant in the 115 machine, continuing to power his way up, and Jackson Porter resets fast time of 55.26. So these guys not quite at the pace of Jackson Porter, but they're getting there. And Gage Grant should have a good lap here behind Mateo Quintos. He's going to be almost into drafting range on this lap. If he can just find a couple more tenths of a second here in the last couple corners down the straightaway, he will get a good tow come to the start-finish line.
Yeah, this looks good here for the 115 of Gage Grant. Rounding the final couple corners, Quinto makes a mistake. It's actually going to help Gage Grant, I think, slightly here. Rounding the final corner, he's definitely in drafting distance now. This could be a good lap for him. Only a tenth behind pole so far. Look at the run he's got coming to the stripe here to complete lap 5. What's it going to bode for Gage Grant? Not enough. A 55.5, still a couple tenths off of what Jackson Porter did. I'm actually shocked that that lap wasn't good enough to reclaim pole position. So far, so good for Jackson Porter as he crossed the line now. Doesn't improve on his lap time. So once again, look at the trend, Emery. Lap 4 was the best lap for everybody, but Christian Sanguinetti now a tenth off there. That was his best lap of the session. He goes third, 55.424 there for him. So a couple of drivers still improving. How about it for Wyatt Kroger? He improves there on lap 6 to go to 4th. What a run for the number 118 there. Wyatt on a good session here so far. A minute and a half left to qualifying. It's still Jackson Porter, a tenth and a half ahead of Gage Grant. But once again, Emery, looking more of the same yesterday where Porter had a bit of an advantage in qualifying, but come the race time, as long as you're within about 2/10 of Porter's time, you have a chance in this one.
Yeah, Jackson Porter, again, he seems to have the pace advantage, and he also seems to have the racecraft advantage, but he's not going to be able to pull away at this pace. He's been consistently pulling a tenth to 2/10 on Gage Grant and Christian Sanguinetti every single lap. But the big story for me, how about it for Wyatt Kroger? He just got displaced down to 5th as Harrison Jeffrey was able to reset his time. But for Kroger, this has been as close to the front of the field as he's been from a pace standpoint all weekend long. And I really do think that he's going to have a shot here to have a podium chance if he can keep this pace up. So good run for the 118, but Jackson Porter seems to have a stranglehold on this pole. We'll get probably one more hot lap from both Gage Grant and Christian Sanguinetti, but it's going to take a lot to displace Porter. Although having said that, Sanguinetti pops in a 55.32. That is close. Almost there. Just needs a little bit more in the tank. Looks like Grant's maybe stagnated a little bit. He cannot improve, but Sanguinetti is going to have one more crack at it, I think, to try to displace Jackson Porter. Porter slowing down. I think this is going to come down to what can Christian Sanguinetti do on this last lap here, Alex?
Yeah, it looks good for Sanguinetti. Porter, the last 2 laps around, has not improved. So that could be it for him and his tires. Where if Sanguinetti is looking to improve here, that might be the end of this session. But I think they have one more in the tank here for Jackson Porter up on the wheel. 5/100th of a second separates your top 2 here in qualifying, with Gage Grant a 10th.5 behind. Jeffrey on the Praga 4/10 back. So not enough for him so far in this session, but this is impressive stuff for these 8 to 12-year-olds, as we saw Gage Grant there rounding the final corner here to finish his final lap. Here comes Jackson Porter. What's it going to bode for him across the stripe, up on the wheel, head down, trying to get every last bit out of his go-kart. And he improves a 55.202. Jackson Porter improves on his own lap. Sanguinetti, not enough. He did a 55.7 on his final lap. So how about it for Jackson Porter? Even when I said that there's not enough left in the tank, he has a little bit more in him. 55.202 puts him on pole position for the 2 heat races later today. Sanguinetti in second place. Gage Grant rounds out your top 3. Harrison Jeffrey in 4th. Wyatt Kroger 5th. Mateo Quinto missing the warm-up session. This was his warm-up, essentially. He's in 6th. Vesper Majewska rounds out your top 7 here in the Mini-Max qualifying. We're going to take a quick break, 10-minute break, and then it's time for our opening round of heat races here in Tucson, Arizona.
Colin, I need a new 219 chain. I need a 77 tooth sprocket. I need some more chain lube, and I need it probably as soon as like tomorrow. Dude, are you even listening? Like, we need this to run this weekend.
Want anything else?
What do you mean?
I already got it in the Kart on Acceleration Kart Racing's online store, bro. All orders over $200 get free shipping.
Oh, throw in a set of tires.
Done.
Everything you need, all in one place, and shipped to your door for free on orders of $200 or more. Exclusions apply. Shop AKR.com.
Are you looking for an advantage in your competition? Well, Car Class has done the hard work for you. We've traveled to your racetracks to give you the inside knowledge. So what does Car Class offer? We've got drone footage that captures the racing lines, visual markers for your braking points, acceleration zones, and the best overtake opportunities on your racetrack. Pedal cam to show you where to brake and when to accelerate, and 360-degree footage to make sure you don't miss any parts on the racetrack. We've covered 13 racetracks in the United States, and Australia, you're up next. So visit carclass.com to get your track information.
Can you hear it? 1 week where the silence is broken. "394 drivers, 60 nations, united in their goal to be the best the very best.
This is the most equal race in the whole world. I will win. There's no opportunity.
No one has ever won junior, senior and DD2 before, and that's what we're aiming for this week.
1 week where every second counts. Every corner, every pass. The competition does not get tougher than this, closer than this, more intense than this. Seven days full of pride, passion, your nation, your roots. Our family is united from all corners of the globe, now together as one. 1 week to change your future, your career, your life. The time is now. Be bold, be brave, be brilliant. Stand tall and celebrate. This is your week. And when all is said and done, and the silence returns, 12 months of hard work is about this week. 1 week. The 2022 Rotax Grand Finals.
So you finally want to get behind the wheel, huh?
Yeah, I've been shooting for 3 years and I've never got to drive.
Well, you're going to need some more gear than just your helmet. Why don't you go to shopakr.com. They got their inventory online and they'll ship it the same day if you order before 5:30 p.m. Eastern.
They got shoes?
Yep.
Gloves?
Yep.
Rip protectors?
Got those too.
Can they make me go fast?
No.
Here at Acceleration Kart Racing, we've got everything you need to get on track. What happens next? Well, that's on you. Check us out online at shopakr.com.
Here at MPG Motorsports, our main goal is to provide the best pathway into professional motorsports for our entire team, drivers and mechanics alike. We're based out of Whiteland Raceway Park in Indiana. For more information, contact us at chase@mpg-motorsports.com.
We're at a commercial break.
Why do you come here? Is this your career?
Or is it all about fun? A chance to get away and leave it all behind?
Or do you chase your personal best? Challenging yourself over and over again. Why do you come here?
Maybe you're here to collect moments. Good ones. And not so good ones.
Or you can't afford mistakes because you want that victory. It's all about this one moment when the hard work finally pays off.
This is the place that brings us closer to the people who share our story. Whoever we are,
Whatever we're here for, racing is who we are.
Hi, I'm Justin Stefani with J3 Competition and Race Rotax.
Welcome back, everybody, to Tucson, Arizona for Race Rotax's U.S. Trophy West Series presented by XScale Motorsports. We just got wrapped up with qualifying, and now it's time for the first bits of heat racing action, starting with the Junior Max class. My name is Alexander Searle. Alongside me in the booth, Lida Emery. We mentioned it earlier in the broadcast. The Junior Max class looks to be incredibly tight. Yesterday, the racing was awesome. Today, I expect more of the same here with Antoine Lemieux on pole position, 200ths of a second ahead of Gage Korn, ahead of Nick Eggleston in third. Xander Malatesta rounds out your top four. And then it's Olivier Marac in fifth. Kyle Drysdale, after a great performance yesterday, having to start from the back of the grid in the feature race, he finished inside your top five. Today in qualifying, he's sixth. How about it for Cadence Presley there? Didn't really have the day yesterday he would have wanted. Didn't really make any of the events today. Qualifies in seventh. Killian Harris, eighth. Kaylee Countryman on the comp cart in ninth. Mason DeChesney rounds out your top 10. That is Cole Medeiros. He had a top five performance for most of the day yesterday. 11th for him in qualifying. Mason Kuhn, 12th. Jack Speth rounds out your grid here for Junior Max. Emery, what stands out to you most as we get ready to start heat race number one?
Yeah, like, so it's going to be an exciting heat race. I mean, 12 laps of distance. You've got Antoine Lemieux kind of in prime position for the first time all weekend where you can control the race. We've got Gage Korn, again, in the same spot as yesterday. He has the one-lap pace. We'll see if he can find the race pace to really put it together and challenge for a main event victory later on. How about it for Nick Eggleston as well? Yesterday, really, really fast, picked up the main event victory. Today, we'll see what he can do from third on the grid. And then Xander Malatesta put in a really good lap at the end of qualifying, probably the best lap we've seen from him all weekend long to go fourth fastest. He'll be another contender. Kyle Drysdale got to make a little bit of extra work happen here in this heat race and in the second one as well to come from sixth. But ultimately, this is going to be a very exciting race. Again, this layout, we're about to see exactly how it races, but so far from everything we've seen and heard this weekend, it opens up the doors for so many different passing opportunities and should make the start a little bit more even.
Yeah, this is the first look of a race start on the alternate layout here at Musselman Honda Circuit. The biggest thing to note to me is now turn one, rather than it being the corner that we're looking at right now going the other way, which is a decreasing radius corner, giving the inside a lot more of an advantage than the outside lane yesterday. I believe all but one of the starts, the outside lane, got, left to dry a little bit. But in this layout, the turn one is actually a quick left-right chicane. And so now it plays dividends for both halves of the party. The inside lane has the turn one, but the outside lane has turn two. So we're about to find out which is the preferred lane here. Super slow and steady for Antoine Lemieux up front. Gage Corn on his outside. They are almost stalling their Junior Max karts with how slow they are going here. I think Antoine Lemieux is doing this on purpose because he knows that this start is pivotal for his chances here later on in the feature race for where he starts in that one. Slow and steady here. Green flag getting ready and set to be waved as they cross the stripe here. Antoine Lemieux, nice and steady on the gas now. Green flag in the air. Good start for Lemieux. Great start for the likes of Olivier Mrac from 5th to 3rd already, but a little bit of a squabble there further back. How about it for Xander Malatesta up in the P2? Side by side for 3rd. Gage Corn as well. What a rocket of a start for him up in a P1. Antoine Lemieux, slow and steady was not the way to go for him. He's already down into 3rd. Gage Corn round the outside, made it work up the P1. Malatesta 4th. So far, so good. The outside lane seems to be the one you want to be on because Malatesta and Corn started 2nd and 4th in this one. They're 1st and 2nd right now, Emery.
Yeah, and how about it? Olivier Merck there got a really good start, but then he tried to go 3 wide into the little kink, did not work out, clipped Lemieux, and that, I think, is what caused the gap between 1st and 2nd and the rest of the field. So good to note, the outside got a good launch, looked pretty even, and then with a little bit of contact, just broke free for 1st and 2nd now. Malatesta, though, the highest he's been all weekend is 2nd. For Gage Gordon, he now controls this heat race. It's Nick Eccleston going to go to the inside here of Lemieux. Lemieux's going to let him have it here coming down that back straightaway. So, again, just early going into this race, probably still feeling it out a little bit in terms of the racecraft, but this big pack of from about 3rd all the way back to the end of the train is going to have to work hard to try to catch up to these front two, because otherwise it will be a rout for both the Xander Malatesta as well as Gage Corn at the front of the field.
Looking good so far for Xander Malatesta. Last time around, I know it's the opening lap, but he went purple a little bit faster than Gage Corn. This time around, looks to be even closer than it was last time by. So, again, the blueprint from yesterday was find a drafting partner, work with him, pull away. It's very similar, if not even more of a reason to do so today with how long these straightaways are on this alternate layout. How about it for Gage Corn, though? Slightly quicker there than Malatesta. You have to look back to P7 to find the purple man on the racetrack. Kyle Drysdale, not the start he would have wanted. Started inside your top 6. He's in 7th right now. It's a good squabble here for 4th place, led by your pole sitter, Antoine Lemieux, who's dropped back to 4th, followed by Olivier Mrac. These are the two that worked together in yesterday's feature race to almost come back and make a move on Nick Eggleston, who's ahead of them right now in 3rd position. Then it's Killian Harris. He started outside your top 8 in this one, up into P6. What a start there for Harris. Kyle Drysdale in 7th. This is a good battle here for P4, and they're catching the likes of Nick Eggleston, who's all on his lonesome right now. They're in P3. I suspect this group to catch up to him in about a lap or two. Let's see as they cross the stripe. What's the gap between your top 2? It was 4 tenths. Now as they cross the line here, Gage Corn crosses the stripe, 3.5 tenths between him and Malatesta. But how about it? Nick Eggleston, purple, 51.851, the fast man on the racetrack right now. Only a couple hundredths faster than your top 2. He's gonna need a little bit more than that to catch up to your leaders, but only lap 4 of 12 complete. 8 to go here in this Junior Max race. It's all for Kyle Drysdale has gotten around Killian Harris now up back to where he started in P6 and looking to make headway now on the 5th place driver, Olivier Mrac.
Yeah, this is going to be interesting to watch, see how quickly Drysdale can get up there. It's interesting to see Nick Eccleston. He's a 2.5 off the race lead, but he was very quick on that last time through, and he's also kind of doing it all by himself. We saw now Lemieux struggled a little bit for pace early on. It looks like that's evened out to where Antoine is now able to at least match what Eccleston is doing more or less. But the pack behind him starting to fade off just a little bit. Drysdale's worked his way up to 5th, getting by Olivier Mac there. Mac all the way back to 6th. So this train has kind of evened itself out a little bit, but you're seeing Nick Eccleston starting to kind of pull a little bit of a gap. He was able to get that gap early on in the second lap there as he got by Lemieux. Now just trying to build off of that just a little bit. So we'll see how this all plays out again. 12 laps of distance, 2 laps longer than yesterday's heats. So this is a little bit of an extended race. We'll see how that plays into everything. But Gage Corn right now just doing everything he can at the front to click off the laps. Kyle Drysdale, the last time through, was the quickest kart at 51.771 while making a pass. So he's got the pace. We know Lemieux's got a pace. We knew Eggleston has a pace. But the question is, can they all concertina together, or is it just going to be a walk-away victory for Gage Corn, which is what it looks like right now as he continues to drop Xavier Malatesta slowly but surely.
Yeah, but the thing to note here, Emery, Eggleston, the last 3 laps has gone purple. 51.598. Look at Harris. He's got a run here on Olivier Marac. Thought about it, thought better of it. That's a good passing opportunity through that late apex there. You can really be late on the brakes, as Harris showed there. Just couldn't make the move stick, a little bit too far back in that one. But back to what I was saying about Eggleston. The last couple laps, he's been purple, which means that he is catching Malatesta ahead of him and Gage Corn slowly. But if he can catch up to Malatesta, he could work with Xander there and catch up back to Gage Corn. But again, this is more of what we saw yesterday. This is the same trend from yesterday as Killian Harris inside. He's through a little bit of a bumper-to-bumper there with him and Marac, but he's through now. Harris up into P6. Olivier Marac down a spot in 7th here. Crosses the stripe last time by. Malatesta and Gage Corn ran the exact same lap time, 51.807. Nick Eggleston 2/10 faster than the pair of them, but Kyle Drysdale in 5th, he goes purple, 51.580, all over the rear bumper of Antoine Lemieux on the 234 machine. He was quick yesterday, quick again today, but Drysdale is the quickest of them all here. Here's a good look at the further back drivers. That's Mason Kuhn, I believe, on the, Duchesne, I believe, as well there. So, that is Mason Kuhn, the 213 machine. Sorry about that. MPG Motorsports driver up into 8th place. Good stuff so far for Mason Kuhn there. Is pulled away from Duchesne and Medeiros. Medeiros not making the headway he would have had expected, following the pace that we saw from him in the race yesterday. There's back up to your leader, Gage Corn, is pulled away tremendously now on Malatesta. Almost 8/10 is his advantage last time by, but Nick Eggleston, 51.482, 2/10 faster than your leader last time by. It's down to 1.2 seconds. 4 laps is not enough, most likely, to get that gap closed any further than that. But Eggleston has a decent chance here, Emery, to catch up to Malatesta.
Yeah, I think at this point, 2nd place is probably the realistic goal for Nick Eggleston, because you have to figure passing Xavier Malatesta will take a little bit of time. But if you're Gage Corn, this is just about being consistent, maybe saving a little bit of your tires here. You don't have to slide them too much. Malatesta's done a good job of sticking around them, but just does not quite have the pace. So Eggleston slowly but surely has worked his way up to Malatesta. Malatesta slowly but surely falling away from Gage Corn. Elsewhere behind them, Antoine Lemieux, Kyle Drysdale in their own fight. They've kind of been dropped a bit by Eggleston. Drysdale's found his way up into that 4th spot. And that last time through again, another 2.5 tenths from Eggleston up to Xander Malatesta. He is making headway. Corn at the front of the field should be safe, but at the 2nd spot, it's Nick Eggleston getting himself by Xander Malatesta up through that S section, and he is now up into 2nd place with about a second-ish to catch up to Gage Corn here, Alex.
Yeah, never say never here for Nick Eggleston. I know it's just a heat race, so he's probably just going to play it smart here, but he looks quick, already pulling about a 2-car length advantage over the 242 of Malatesta now, crossing the stripe to see 2.5 laps remaining in this one here for Nick Eggleston. Gage Corn hopping in his go-kart, trying to find every bit of pace out of that MPG Motorsports go-kart there. Last time around, Eggleston a few hundredths slower than Gage Corn, but obviously with that pass that he had to make on Malatesta, that is expected further down the order. How about it for Kyle Drysdale, matching to the thousandths his lap time compared to Gage Corn, your leader. So I think we're in for an incredible showing later on this afternoon in Heat 2 and the feature race, with how many drivers are able to match the pace of your leader here. Looking further down, let's see where Antoine Lemieux is. Lemieux, after being your pole sitter in Junior Max, down in 5th. Killian Harris has stalled out there in 6th. Olivier Marac in 7th. Mason Kuhn still in 8th. Duchesne 9th. Cole Madero still stuck in that 10th place position there, running lap times almost 8 to 9 tenths slower than your leaders last time by. So Cole Madero's not the pace we would have expected from the 207 machine after yesterday's performance. How about it for Malatesta, though? Last time by, the pace looks good for that 242 there after getting passed by Nick Eggleston. Eggleston not pulling away, and if anything, Kyle Drysdale is the one on a mission right now, 3/10 faster than anybody on the racetrack last time by, all over the bumper now of Malatesta there with 1.5 laps remaining. This might still be in the cards here for Drysdale.
Yeah, Drysdale has been electric lately, but really not a whole lot that he can do about it. He's still got a little ways to go to catch up to Xander Malatesta, although Malatesta is definitely reeling. You can see there, Eccleston's pulled away a solid 4 car lengths from him. Drysdale's within a couple kart lengths, and then Lemieux's not too terribly far away as well. So this could heat up in the last lap or so. It's a little bit too late for Drysdale that you would have to imagine to find this pace. I think he needed to have had that a little bit earlier to have serious inroads on a potential win or a P2, but still, that has to leave him optimistic for later on in the day. But how about it at the front of the field as Gage Corn starts his final lap for him? A commanding performance. He got the comfortable lead at the start and has not put a wheel wrong all race long, as we now see Malatesta continuing to fight in the background. There's Corn, there's Eggleston, there is Xander Malatesta doing everything he can to hang on against Drysdale. It's been a good race for the Green Machine. It needs to be a little bit better here if he wants to hang on to this third spot down into the last heavy braking zone in the hairpin. They're going to cross him back over. Lemieux is on the scene now. Now, Antoine Lemieux, a bit of a lifeline for Malatesta. He's going to get by Kyle Drysdale, and now that gives Malatesta a little bit of extra space. It gives Lemieux the 4th place, and Drysdale is the one guy that loses out. But at the front of the field, Gage Corn hangs on for a heat race victory here in Junior Max.
Unbelievable scenes there at the end between Drysdale and Lemieux. Drysdale was so caught up in trying to get around Malatesta that he wasn't concerned at all of Antoine Lemieux's pace there. I think it caught him off guard. So Antoine Lemieux, ever the opportunist there, finishes in 4th, but Gage Corn, a dominating performance there to win Heat 1 in Junior Max ahead of Nick Eggleston. Xander Malatesta holds on for a P3 finish ahead of Antoine Lemieux, and Kyle Drysdale in 5th. Killian Harris holds on to 6th there ahead of Mason Duchesne. Cole Medeiros up to 8th there at the end ahead of Kaylee Countryman, Jack Speth. Mason Kuhn dropped 3 spots there in the latter parts of that race. Cadence Presley in 12th. Olivier Mirac, 2 laps down, didn't finish that heat race. Unfortunate there for Olivier Mirac, who was a 3rd place finisher in yesterday's feature race, down there in 13th and last for Junior Max. Exciting stuff there. But Emery, up next, we have the Micro Max class. We're going to quickly switch streams to go behind the paywall, but don't go anywhere.